All right, we're going to go ahead and finish out Chapter 7, the financial management chapter of Liberate, with this video, picking up here with wealthy versus poor choices revisited. Okay, start now by thinking in the context of wealthy versus poor choices. The first step is to differentiate a wealthy choice from a poor choice. Right, we talked about this in Chapter 4. Once you can, the next step is to train yourself to make more wealthy than poor choices. Another consideration is that not all decisions are created equally. The repercussions of poor choices vary. The two most important purchases you want to get right by making wealthy choices are purchasing your home and car. While splurging on extra snacks at the grocery store may be a poor choice, it doesn't have the same long-lasting effects as a 30-year home mortgage, right? Another caution is if you haven't already guessed it, is never to use a credit card that you can't pay off at the end of every month. Especially never finance groceries on a credit card. Who wants to pay interest on the milk and eggs they bought 6 months ago? That is a horrible habit and should be eliminated immediately. The three most common forms of debt are credit cards, cars, and houses. Credit card debt is by far the worst, followed by car and then house debt. Historically, credit card debt charges you the most interest, followed by car debt and then house debt. Many people use credit cards to buy consumer staples like toothpaste and toilet paper, as well as discretionary items like electronics and designer jeans. None of these items are assets. These perishable items wear out or become obsolete, and you'll be charged interest for purchasing them on a credit card. Not to mention, these non-asset items, including the interest charged, are your dollar soldiers dying as casualties in the war against poverty. Your army of dollar soldiers is shrinking every time you're charged interest for using a credit card or make these types of non-asset purchases. It is not enough to just control spending. You must also accumulate assets. You need to preserve more dollar soldiers by deploying them to active duty in your FI account, where they can earn you interest rather than allowing them to become unproductive casualties of war, never to be seen again. To become FI, start thinking in the context of wealthy versus poor choices. Okay, so how do we, if we're a fixer and we're in debt, how do we get out of debt? What are some ideas? It is much easier to become FI when you are out of debt. Get control of your spending with a financial management plan and focus intensely on paying off all your consumer debt as soon as possible. Stay current on all your debt payments, but contribute any additional money to paying off your smallest debt first to gain confidence in the debt roll down process. Once you've made your final payment on your first smallest debt, you will add that money with any additional money you may have to the second smallest debt until it is paid off. Then you will add everything you put toward the first and second smallest debts to the third smallest debt balance. Continuing this process increases your ability to repay the remaining debts sooner. For conciseness and simplicity, the debt roll-down table example uses low debt balances and the same minimum monthly payment for all debts with no additional money being contributed. All right, we just had to keep this very simple. Other situations might be more complex, right? But we have 5 months. We have medical bills at $1,000, credit cards at $2,000, car loan at $4,500, and the monthly payment we're making for each of those is $500. So $500 toward medical, $500 toward credit card, $500 toward the car loan. Total monthly payment $1,500. In reality, the debt balances will probably be larger. Each minimum monthly payment will be different, and you may have additional money you can put toward paying off the debt. But like I said, we're just trying to keep this as simple as possible. Okay, this table clearly demonstrates the debt roll down process. In the first month, it shows 3 minimum debt payments of $500, totaling $1,500. The same 3 separate payments are made in the second month, and the medical bill debt is completely paid off. Starting in the third month, $500 is added to the credit card bill, right? The roll down process. Minimum, let's see, 500 is added to the credit card bill, minimum payment of 500, so that a total of $1,000 is applied to that debt, and it is completely paid off. In month 4, sorry, let me scroll up. In months 4 and 5, the only debt remaining is the car loan. The original car loan payment of $500 is now amplified by an additional $1,000 from the previously paid off debts before it is completely paid off in month 5. That is the power of focus. That is the power of concentrating money and energy on eliminating debts sequentially, starting with the smallest until they are gone and out of your life. Once they are gone, you are never doing that again. Debt is not your friend. Debt is not an option. Debt is your enemy and is keeping you from reaching your full potential. Debt is holding you back from achieving your purpose in life. Be thankful for the power of focus. Move on from your debt-ridden past and focus your time and resources on building wealth. If you don't feel like your debt is decreasing fast enough, you may have to resort to extreme measures. For a time, you may have to get a second job to see the debt start to shrink. You may have to make additional sacrifices by selling things you don't need or going without certain luxuries for a while. Whatever the case, sometimes extreme situations call for extreme measures. So if you are extremely in debt and want to be extremely out of debt, you may have to do some extreme things to make it happen. But you know what? You can do it. Napoleon Hill, a pioneer of modern personal development, emphasized that whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. All right, I believe you can get out of debt. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about debt, let's talk about good debt versus bad debt. It's advisable to pay off your credit cards before starting to invest. It is because eliminating credit card debt gives you the highest risk-free and tax-free return on your money. Credit card debt can be particularly harmful as interest rates range from 10% to 25% or even higher. By paying off your credit cards, you effectively secure a guaranteed return equivalent to the high interest rates you would otherwise be paying. I just told you not to accumulate credit card debt because of the high interest charges. Now that you're scared of debt, and you should be because it enslaves you, I'm going to tell you that you can use the right debt for the right reasons if you determine that it's absolutely necessary. First, we determined earlier how important your personal income engine is to the success of your FI. We also know that the more advanced skills and education you have, the higher probability you have of earning more income. Right? Thus, if you cannot move forward with your education without financing it after exploring all your options, then education debt may be appropriate for your situation, but doing so should be your last resort. Look for all other options to finance your education, like scholarships, grants, savings, working while you're going to school, so that you don't have a large student loan to pay off when you finish. Next, in most cases, purchasing a modest home is better than renting if your income and circumstances allow. As long as you follow the previously mentioned guidelines, right, it's okay. Once you've paid off the mortgage, ideally a 15-year rather than a 30-year mortgage, you own the property outright and can start allocating those former mortgage payments to your FI account rather than paying perpetual rent and having nothing to show for it. Finally, when you don't have the cash to purchase a car and there are no other viable means of transportation, yet is necessary for work or education purposes, buy an inexpensive used car on loan. Whenever you must use debt, strive for low interest rates and tax-deductible interest. Okay, so that's going to wrap up Chapter 7, Financial Management. We're just going to end the chapter with the next steps section. So I need you to believe money is a tool I control. By mastering financial management, I create the freedom and stability needed to achieve lasting financial independence. Examine, am I saving at least 15% to 20% of my income? If not, what spending adjustments can I make to reach or exceed this goal? And then finally, act. Create or review your financial management plan. Schedule a time each week to review your spending, make adjustments to your plan as needed, and ensure that you are living within your means. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm Dr. Roper. This has been Chapter 7, Financial Management from Liberate. I think you're doing great, and just stay with me, and we'll go on to another exciting chapter. Chapter 8 is investing, so I'm excited to provide that for you in our upcoming videos. Thank you.